Hi,
Hi.
hi, Gucci.
Yeah, hi, this is Shishir, and I'm a mentor in edWisor. So, one thing about the project, I would share some areas of strength which I really appreciated was that was responsive, it was clean, the
Yeah,
organization with all custom module, everything was is very appreciated.
thank you.
What I did not about and what was missing when you refresh the screen, it shows error. Why was that happening?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, in my local OS, that problem is not there. But after deployment on live environment, it is not reloading. And
Okay. What could be the issue?
uh, I searched about it, and I got some reasons. I used lazy loading and in some answers I got that we need to configure in server environment as well to
Okay.
support the route router
So what you majorly work on, more on UI side or on the backend side, which you are more comfortable in?
in UI side Angular.
Can you share your screen and show me that page where you are doing lazy loading?
Yeah,
Once you are ready, and we will come back to that. Just make it ready. So I'll go on with the other areas. So other than that error, what I felt was you have managed to write a functional code, but at many places it was very imperative. So when I say code is very imperative, do you understand anything about your code now? What is imperative and what is functional?
sorry, I'm getting the word imperative. uh,
Okay. So what is functional? Functional programming.
hmm, the word means functional programming. I'm not getting the
Okay. What is declarative? Declarative, imperative. Have you heard of any of these?
yeah.
Okay. What then?
I
So
might use in a project, but currently I'm not
okay,
recall
so this
what.
is a style of coding. It's very popular in any framework which you choose. The style of coding is something like are you reading your project side by side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be looking at that screen which where you have this hosted and all. So just make it ready. So coming back to yeah. So when you write your code like for I is equal to 0, I less than, if, else, and
Yeah.
that is all considered as procedural or imperative style or
Okay.
non-functional style. Why? Because until and unless I read through the body of your functions, I won't realize what your function is doing, right?
Okay.
But when you use some methods which ES6 gives, for example, reduce, filter,
Okay.
or if you use something out of RxJS operators,
Okay. Yeah.
so then that becomes functional because you don't say how to do the things. You just say that use do this way. Your words speak what you're doing, right? Your
Okay.
code is
Yeah.
smaller and it has almost no steps. It's completely abstract, right? Okay.
Okay.
You could have used some loaders and transitions to make it smoother. Otherwise, I like the complete implementation. Uh, I can move into separate categories now for review, but before that, I want to see your page if it is ready.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
This one.
Yes, I can see.
Sorry, this is local one. Yeah, this is hosted.
Okay, show me the lazy loading part now.
Okay. So if we observe in source, when we navigate to other page, that module will be loaded in source. Can I demo in local, because I can,
Anything.
yeah. So this is the local one. Yeah. So here we can see the modules. Initially, this sorry, in source.
So what is lazy loading?
Yeah. So in lazy loading, we can load modules as per our demand. For this project, initially there is login page, right, and sign up page. So we need to just load user management module, which contains the login and sign up.
What is module?
Module is the container of components and
A
services.
JavaScript file, right?
Sorry.
A JavaScript file, right?
Yeah, JavaScript file, but it contains the collection of components and services.
Okay. So on
So
demand, you're loading new JavaScript files.
yeah, so
So you should
initially
show that in network panel then.
uh, network panel.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't heard about network panel.
Okay. Open DevTools.
Sorry.
Go back to your DevTools.
Yeah,
Yeah. So go to the network panel. Beside network, beside
yeah.
source.
This
Yeah.
one is network panel, and here, in network panel we can observe the calls from client to server, and response from servers to
Yeah.
client
If
application. So
anything loads from
we
your
can
server, it will
observe the
show here, right?
network call. Sorry.
If anything loads from your server, will show here, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
all server calls can be observed here.
Okay, then show those modules loading then. Here.
Okay. Yeah.
Not in sources. I don't understand. Why do you want to go to sources? Anything which loads from server will be shown in network, right?
Yeah.
So show there then.
Okay. So as I sign in, uh, this log we can see this post call for login is done, and this one is for meeting call, get meetings call.
Hmm?
Yeah. So in network panel, we can observe all the HTTP calls and the communication between clients and server
Right.
applications.
Okay, that I know. So show me any other module other than this.
In code,
Yeah, which will load lazily when you open that page. You have any other module other than this?
uh,
Other than dashboard? Any other URL?
yeah. So there are two dashboard, right? For one for admin and another for normal user. So both modules are separated. So when
Hmm.
user logging as an admin, so only admin module will be loaded, not user one. And if user will logging as a normal user, then admin module will not be loaded.
Okay,
Only normal users
understood.
will be loaded.
Okay, I'm presenting now next part.
Okay.
Which, let me know if you see the screen. You can see the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing some code here. Let me know the output of that.
Okay.
So you have to tell the output of this, plus you have to explain how it will run in the context of event loop in browser.
Okay. Uh, it will display, it will print 0 to 4.
Hmm.
Set timeout is basically generally used for to wait for the function. Suppose if we set 1 second for 2 seconds, then it will wait for 1 second or 2 seconds and then execute again that code. But
What?
here zero is set, so uh, so I'm confused about the zero. What will be
Hmm.
if zero? Because generally I use the set item with some non-zero, some positive values.
Now, now.
Okay, so after each 10 milliseconds,
Mhm.
console.log console.log will execute,
After,
and
after
uh,
each 10, what do you mean by that? After each 10?
uh, after each 10 it will execute
What do you mean by each 10?
each 10 milliseconds.
Each 10 milliseconds means 1 0, and then after 10 milliseconds 1, and then after 10 milliseconds 2, like that.
Uh,
What do you mean by each?
no. On the first iteration, when the value of j is zero, this set outcome will execute, right?
Hmm.
And it will loop in for that iteration itself. So it will not go for next iteration j is equal to 1, because set item will execute in loop. So
Hmm.
for j is equal to 0, it will loop infinitely.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
this, so on the first iteration itself, it execute in infinite loop. So for j is equal to 0, so every time it prints 0.
Okay, you have to read about this more because it's basic thing. So you have to read about set timeout in, and also you have to read about how event loop runs, because here the output would be 5 times 5, and why it is because the reason is this is how event loop works in browser, that all these callbacks are put into um, a queue, and one by one they are executed after current stack finishes. That means for loop finishes, after that all these will be running. Okay, so when
Okay.
these start running, by that time j is already 5, so it will run 5 times 5, because first for loop, so this code is actually equal to writing this code. Okay, like this. Okay, it's the same thing, because
Okay.
this will execute first, and then in browser loop, these callbacks will keep going inside one after the other. 5 callbacks will go like this, and browser will start executing these callbacks one by one.
Okay.
Okay, and obviously if it does that, I is 5 by then, right? Okay. In Angular, are you comfortable in Angular?
Yeah.
Yeah, so have you ever came across a particular error which says that uh, expression has been changed after it was checked?
Yeah, it is generally when we communicate between two components. So suppose we pass some value from one component to another, from parent to child component, and using input decorators, or so when the value has been changed of the input value of the component, then the life cycle hook of component detect the change, and at that time it returns some error
How
in
do
life
you,
cycle hook. Sorry.
how do you correct that error then?
So we can use the life cycle hook on change event, on change of the component, and check the value and correct if uh, the value has been changed.
This particular thing, when Angular comes across, when it needs to find out what has changed and what has not, how does it detects these changes? First it looks into parent, or first it looks into child and then its parent. How it happens whenever the changes happen across complete Angular app? How does Angular go inside and check out and check where changes have happened? Because you are understanding how much performance intensive this work is.
Yeah, so Angular continuously check all the components values, and if any change detect, then it will uh, uh, set that new value of that component.
Elaborate more. What do you mean by continuously checking?
So what say it check for dirty check. So
But
it
if it continuously keeps checking, don't you think that it is waste of resources here?
uh, but that is the advantage of Angular, that it is responsive and fast responsive, and detect all the changes at runtime, and two-way binding. It provides two-way binding, so any changes detected, it will reflect on DOM, and that is the functionality and usage of Angular, I think.
So if you have to make any such normal JavaScript application, and if you continuously keep checking all your objects,
Yeah.
don't you think it will be very slow? And in fact, doing it with normal JavaScript would be faster than doing it with Angular, because Angular is continuously checking all the objects, whichever got changed, it has to update screen based on that.
Yeah, but Angular, I think Angular has some functionality that if some value are not changed, then it will skip that value and only focus on some values that are changed.
Okay.
So if by doing that manually, uh, it can be possible, but we can to put effort lots of
Has it ever happened that you changed something but it did not reflect on screen?
some change, and
You changed your model somewhere, but
yeah,
it did not reflect on screen. Has it ever happened?
yeah.
Why is that?
uh, because sometimes I use two or three components in one component, and some changes are done from another component. Then that child component didn't get the updated value. Suppose
Okay.
I have used some dashboard, and in dashboard I have used calendar component, and in calendar there is another component for meeting that handles the updation of meeting and creation of meeting. So if I change some value in meeting component, then the call HTTP call done by the dashboard component, but the value displayed in the calendar component. So there are communication between the components. So after the latest call get from server, it will not change in the child's component value.
So see, if everything remains in the domain of Angular, then Angular will definitely manage it. But there are some situations like if you're using jQuery and you are using a component which is made in jQuery,
Yeah.
right? And Angular is at that time not looking at jQuery objects changing, right? So
Yeah.
if you have to say anything to Angular, Angular won't automatically reflect anything after reading from your jQuery component.
Yeah.
So that is one instance where it can happen, that because something outside of Angular will affect this particular case, that it is not able to reflect at that speed in which you are changing your objects, which are outside of Angular's control.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have one question that first you have raised that when we reload on live environment, it you can show in the local environment. Yeah, this is the local environment, right? So when I reload, it works.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
What works? According to me, it was working in your production, right? It was working there also.
reload.
A reload was not working. But
Yeah.
okay,
So,
I got it that in local it works. I got it.
yeah. So I'm facing some deployment issues in deployment environment. Angular route is not working.
Okay.
So what is the
So
best?
if the only endpoint exposed in your server is the base, then all your other see, it generally happens when you have that route in your client, but you don't have that route on your server. Okay. In case of Angular, you are giving first screen in every call, right?
Yeah.
So if it goes to server, whenever you hit a URL on screen, it first goes to server. If server has no such route,
Yeah.
it will give you an error. So you have to, through a intermediate proxy or Nginx, you have to route all those URLs to your base URL only, so that your base code can be served.
Okay.
Okay. So what you are trying to do is actually what we call as isomorphic apps. Okay. And they support routing both on the client as well as on the server.
Okay. Isomorphic.
Yeah. Isomorphic routes you can search for. In that case, so see, when you reload the page, client's router doesn't work. There has to be a router on the server for that.
Yeah.
That particular route should be open and existing on the server. It should be a valid route, and that route should give out all your basic whatever JavaScript chunks
Okay.
you're making. You're doing lazy loading, I guess. So
Okay.
whatever that route requires, all those lazy loaded components which that route requires has to be served from the
Okay.
server from there. From what appears like is on that route, you're not serving all your lazy loaded components. The JavaScripts which it should serve is not getting served.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to either route all your server requests to base URL, or you have to make a server. This is the only method actually. You have to route all your URLs to your base URL on server. You have to make an Nginx layer in between, which will route all those calls to base URL of your server.
Base.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have searched and in Stack Overflow or something else, I got one answer that we can configure every time I got 404, right? So we can configure 404 to our desired one
Yeah. So
index. We can
route all your non-existent or all your routes to your base URL.
Yeah.
Be it 404, so 404 because it does not exist on your server. So
Yeah.
just route all those URLs to your base URL.
Base.
Then
Okay.
it will exist.
Okay.
It will exist on the server.
Okay.
So the basic issue is this only: either you, so if you give your page made on the server, which actually you're not doing, but if you make your page rendered from the server, then all your pages, all your routes should exist on the server, and then all the HTML initial HTML files will be different for different routes
Okay.
on the server itself.
Okay.
That is something which you call as server-side rendering. Although you're not doing that, you're doing client-side rendering only.
Okay. And the base URL in index HTML.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. So in localhost, by default, it is slash.
Yeah. So in
And
your localhost, all those URLs are pointing to your server actually.
yeah. So
do same thing in your that deployed URL also.
no, in deployed, it didn't work, and I removed the slash and keep blank string, and then it worked.
Like you removed a slash.
Yeah.
Can you show me how? So the basic idea is whichever route you're hitting should exist on server also.
Okay. Yeah. So I removed the dist folder, I think. So the base URL will be the existing the folder, I think.
Yeah.
But we need to
the issue is on the server side here.
Yeah, but we need to configure all the routes to the base.
Yeah.
The basic idea is that
if you configure all the routes to your base, that is the easiest way to do. If you have to deliver different chunks on different routes, then you have to do that thing in your server also. Then all your routes will be served different content from the server itself.
Okay.
Okay. So here, when you are showing lazy loading, when you click on screen and go to other page, new chunk loads. Okay. But when you refresh your screen, same thing should happen from server also.
Yeah. Got it. So if I go for early loading, then that problem will not be there, right?
Yeah. If you don't go for lazy loading, it's normal then. Yeah. No, but lazy loading is a good thing because
I learned lazy loadings and I was
that is really appreciable. I would suggest because I have not seen that done in any of the project till now, frankly.
Yeah, and actually when I faced that reloading problem, it was the last day of submission, and so
I have noted that, and it's really good effort, I would say, because I have not seen that done anywhere else. At least it is half done here.
At last day, I thought that I removed the lazy loading and early loading.
No, it's good that you have kept lazy loading. Otherwise, one of my comments would be lazy loading needed.
Yeah, but it was too late to submit because at last hour. So I just submitted that with lazy loading. Yeah. Because I learned the lazy loading and I want to show that skill what I learned from this.
Okay, then I took all the points. That's it. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.